Welcome along to Donington Park, everybody. The opening round of the 2026 Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup is coming up for you under what are broken clouds, really, at Donington Park. We've got a bit of blue sky, but it is chilly out there, absolutely. You come out of the sunshine and you really can feel the fact that summer definitely isn't here as yet, and spring hasn't really arrived at this part of the East Midlands, not at least today. This grid that's coming up for you will be based on their qualifying times from this morning. Now you can see 42 kilometres per hour, the wind is getting up and getting stronger and stronger as the day has worn on, and the temperature's hovering around 11, but it doesn't feel like that out there at all. So this is the first of two races we've got for you for the Boxster Cup. The second one's coming up about 6 o'clock this evening, something like that. Let me guide you through then the way that they line up. It is Ethan Hall on pole position, and Luca Maserati lines up alongside. Kuba Wozniak lines up on the inside of row number 2, and he's got Graham Hurd for company, with row 3 being Brendan Hafner, and Brendan Hafner will have Perry Darling alongside. The fourth row of the grid, a young 16-year-old making his debut in motorsport, Brooklyn Howell, lines up alongside what is Stuart Warner on row number 4. And row 5 of the grid, Tony Levy lines up on the inside of the 5th row of the grid alongside David Hussey. Eric Bridges has got Louis Pont for company on row number 6. And row number 7 sees Adam Warner line up alongside Tony Jones. The next row of the grid is Stephen Cartwright and Adam Spencer. And then the final row and a half of the grid will see Ava Nolan line up alongside Craig Horvath and David Watt on his own at the tail end of the field. So that's the way that they set their fastest times in qualifying. It was cloudy, it was starting to dry out in qualifying, which means that we'll probably see slightly quicker race times than we saw in qualifying, because it was certainly wet at the beginning of their qualifying, or damp, and it did dry out towards the end, so we'll wait and see. So the dark blue car with the pink flashes to it is Ethan Hall, who's there on pole position. He's got 17-year-old Luca Maserati sitting alongside him. Luca, who was doing great things in the Junior Saloon Car Championship, but he's well used to this Porsche, the family-run Porsche, and has shared it with his father in the past in some other championship races. But their focus for this year is on the Boxster Cup, and Luca Maserati is a very, very quick youngster. Kuba Wozniak is in the black car with the red flashes to it on row number 2, and Graham Hurd should be alongside, but I did hear that Graham Hurd had withdrawn, and indeed there is a gap there on that second row of the grid, I'm afraid, so we will not see Graham Hurd out. Not entirely sure what the problems are with his car, but I did hear over the lunch break that that would be an absentee on that second row of the grid. So that certainly gives the car behind something to accelerate into, which is Stuart Warner. You can see there, he'll be the one that will look to try and propel his car into that gap that lies ahead, because there's a nice open stretch of Donington Park tarmac to try and head into. This is a 25-minute race for this championship, which features all of these Porsche Boxsters, which were built between 2018 and 2021. And you can see just how windy it is, the camera moving around from our elevated camera position at Redgate Corner. So marshals holding tight onto the green flag, because that'll be a difficult thing to wave in these conditions as well. We'll get the green flag at the back of the grid, and then we'll get the 5-second board held aloft, and then we'll get our first race of the 2026 Porsche Club Championship Motorsport Boxster Cup underway. Red lights will be coming on the gantry, which they do now. Ethan Hall on pole position. Lights go out. Who gets the better start? It's a great start from the second row of the grid. Luca Maserati is slow away. Brendan Hafner looking to see if he can weave his way through. But that is also a very good start from Perry Darling, who I think might well be up into second place by the time they get towards Redgate Corner for the first time. Luca Maserati was really slow away and has dropped down into 4th, maybe 5th position. They all just about avoid making contact with each other as they come out of Redgate and down in towards Hollywood for the first time and start to propel themselves down the daunting Craner curves. And what a start it is from Ethan Hall, who has got a very large jump on the car of Perry Darling, who's there in 2nd position. Looks as though it's Kuba Wozniak that's there in 3rd at this stage, and Luca Maserati was trying to get himself back up into 4th at the moment, but the car that's going to be ahead of him is Brendan Hafner at the wheel of the dark blue car with the day-glow flashes down the centre of it. In fact, Luca Maserati looking for the inside line actually as they head round through McLean's Corner for the first time. So the top 3 having broken away, but our race leader Ethan Hall with a very, very handsome lead in the early stages from Perry Darling, and then Kuba Wozniak, who's there in 3rd position. They start to stretch their legs down the exhibition straight and in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's for the first time. Luca Maserati also needing to defend from the car that sits behind him, which is Stuart Warner's car, looking to try and sneak his way through. No way through, though, for Stuart Warner to carve his way. So he was quick into the corner. He's a little bit slower out, and all of a sudden the gap appears between the pair of them. for second place in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. Very easy to outbrake yourself at that point because you're braking downhill into the hairpin as well. You snatch a brake, you run a little bit wide, and straight away it gives some opportunities, but everybody dealing with it as they're still trying to build some temperature into their brakes and their tyres on this chilly day. They got the formation lap, but that's not necessarily enough to build enough temperature that you want in the tyres. Further down through the order, David Hussey having a squabble with the yellow and blue car. That is going to be the car, as we say, of Brooklyn Howell. It is having his first ever race here today, Brooklyn. Up towards the braking area for Redgate Corner. Perry Darling in second place, still under attack from Kuba Wozniak. Brooklyn Howell, whose father we've seen racing Ferraris in the past, going well. Kept his nose clean on the first lap. Mid-pack at this stage, so not a bad debut for him. He's going to come through at the end of the first lap, down in 19th position out of the 18th cars. So yeah, absolutely mid-pack for what is Brooklyn Howell. It's a little wiggle of the car mid-corner there as he tries to gather it up, and he's going to be able to sneak his way through and past David Hussey, who makes a mistake. Or has he got a problem because he's slow coming out of the old hairpin? No, and you can see him pulling off onto the grass. So David Hussey with some sort of problem, I'm afraid, there. End of the first lap, Ethan Hall led by a very un-Porsche Boxster Cup-like, 3.8 seconds exactly, but the fight for second and third is definitely on as Kuba Wozniak nips up the inside of Perry Darling and takes the place away, and straight away Luca Maserati is able to gauge the advantage as well. So gain the advantage, he goes through and picks up a place. So Perry Darling, despite the quick start, now losing 2 places. And then behind him we might have a further change as well. Stuart Warner having another attack on Brendan Hafner, this time through though at the same point that he tried on the previous lap. It has worked, so the silver car with its orange roof goes through and gains the place. Now Luca Maserati qualified second quickest. The poor start dropped him down through the order. He's back to third. He's right on the coattails of Kuba Wozniak. He was nearly a full second quicker in qualifying than the car ahead. So he'll look to try and see if he can wiggle his way through somewhere. Nothing doing on the way in towards Goddard's. Can he try and unlock the door on the way out? No, he's going to have to sit behind Kuba Wozniak as they come over the start-finish line. So Kuba just making sure that he is defensive on his way in towards Redgate Corner, protects the inside line. So Luca Maserati tries the outside line to see if he can wiggle his way through and past. Then he'll try and get the undercut coming out of the corner and see if he can sneak through onto Hollywood, but he hasn't quite got the momentum, so he sits behind once more, settles for third place at this stage, and all of this is playing into the hands of Ethan Hall, who after 2 laps of racing now leads by 7.1 seconds, and I'm afraid that's an off, and that is David Watt with damage to the tail end of his car. You see the rear bumper's been dragged off the car. He had problems in qualifying as well, and it looks as though his problems continue in the race. He is dropping right the way down towards the tail end of the field and could be destined for the pit lane. First 5 minutes of the race have almost elapsed. Well, there's the bumper, we know that. We certainly know it's not on the back of the car, but it's found its way off into the gravel trap at what I think is the first corner, Redgate Corner, but he is continuing. You see him wiggling the car around to try and just gauge whether there's any further damage to it or dislodge some of the gravel that would have been put in the car. And Luca Maserati now still looking to try and see if he can grab second place. You see the tail end of the car wiggling around, but still Kuba Wozniak hands on to second place. The 2 cars very evenly matched in terms of race pace, working their way down in towards the Melbourne hairpin. Luca Maserati tries the inside line as they head down in towards the hairpin. Kuba Wozniak sees him coming, leaves the door open, and is going to drop down into, for the moment, third place. Perry Darling is still there in fourth place, and Stuart Warner completes the top 5 at this stage. So Brendan Hafner has lost a further position as well. I think that's the number 60 car of Tony Levy that's gone by in the background as well, because it certainly looked like the red and white flashes of Tony Levy's car. Yes, it is, who is now ahead of the dark blue car with the Dayglow yellow flashes to it. So that's another place lost, I'm afraid, for Brendan Hafner, who is trying to fight back in the background of the shot. Let's have a look. Can he make it stick, having just lost a position? Trying to gain it back. No, Tony Levy just has his nose ahead still. So out of Redgate and Hollywood down the Craner curves, 9.25 seconds is now the lead advantage between Ethan Hall and Max Maserati. Sorry, and Luca Maserati, I should say. So they work their way through the old hairpin. Fastest lap of the race to Ethan Hall last time through, that 1 minute 46.568. Of course, that was when Luca Maserati was still trying to get himself up into second place. This is the first lap where he's really had clear traffic and no overtaking to do, albeit he's still being pressurised by Kuba Wozniak behind. Up towards Coppice Corner, blind entry, double apex right-hander, grab the first apex, don't worry about the second, you're roughly in the middle of the circuit, and then use all of the curb on the exit of it before you then move the car from the left of the circuit back to the right of the circuit for the left and the right flicks at the Fogarty S's, onto the brakes, with still Luca Maserati still being shadowed by Kuba Wozniak. Perry Darling still fighting away with Stuart Warner. This is number 4 that they're on at this stage. Now, is the lead advantage going to come down from 9.2 seconds? Luca Maserati was 10th of a second quicker through the first sector, but he was about 2/10 slower than the race leader through the second sector. So if the gap does come down, it won't be by much. If the gap goes up, equally, it won't be by much. Through and over the start-finish line has already gone Ethan Hall, our race leader. Now, 9.2 seconds after just 4 laps of racing is a hugely impressive start to the race. It goes up to 9.4 seconds still this time through. Who was quicker? It was by 0.2 of a second, Ethan Hall. Further down through the order, Stuart Warner still fighting away with the car in the hands of Perry Darling. So the two similarly liveried cars, dark blue with the sort of V-shaped flash through the bonnet, the silver car with the V-shaped flash through the bonnet, squabbling away. Here on the screen you can see the last few laps, relative pace of Luca Maserati compared to Kuba Wozniak. So Luca pulling away all of the time, so he is now 0.8 of a second up the road from the third place car, who is sticking with the task in hand but is just losing out a little bit to Luca Maserati. Good fight going on further down through the order. That's Eric Bridges, who has got the car of Tony Jones for company at this stage. And just behind them, that will be Adam Warner, I think that will be, the number 7 car. So they're just threading their way up towards the braking area for McLean's at the moment. We do have a 5-second penalty gone out, I think, for one driver, and I think that's going to go the way of Brooklyn Howell. Yeah, 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits for Brooklyn Howell. So making his debut in the championship, the youngest driver we've got in the championship, he's just 16 years of age. Luca Maserati, who's second, only 17 years of age at this stage, but has far more experience. So in towards the braking area goes the 9th, 10th and 11th place battle. Eric Bridges fighting away with Tony Jones. Then you've got the car of Adam Warner not that far behind at all. All the cars running in a single class, so there's no separate classes in the Boxster Cup. They're all identical spec cars, whether it be the earlier model 3.2 Boxster, which are allowed to have a maximum of 218 brake horsepower on the wheels, or the slightly later model of Boxster, which are allowed slightly more power but do run as a heavier weight. They're allowed 226 maximum horsepower at the wheels, but they run the best part of 55 kilograms higher, so power to weight of both is pretty much identical, and that's what makes the good racing in the Boxster Cup Championship. And towards the braking area for the old hairpin, Perry Darling still under pressure from Stuart Warner, and a little bit of a moment where didn't quite grab the apex for Tony Levy, and now that puts him under pressure instantly from Brendan Hafner, who's trying to draw himself alongside the outside line at Schwantz. Would give him the inside line when they get towards McLean's corner, and Brendan Hafner is surely going to go through. Yep, through he goes. That small mistake down at the old hairpin costing number 60 car of Tony Levy and losing him a place, and that's going to drop him down into 7th place. Now he's outside of the top 6. The car behind them is the yellow and blue car, which is Brooklyn Howell. But remember, whilst he might only be a couple of seconds adrift of the rest, he's going to add 5 seconds to his race time because of transgressions around the circuit limits. A good fight further down through the order. This is going to be Craig Horvath, who has got right behind him Adam Spencer. Adam Spencer coming under pressure from the next to the cars behind. Is that Louis Pont, I would have thought, behind? It'll be Ivan Nolan in the red and the white car, and behind Ivan Nolan will be Stephen Cartwright, actually, because we've got 3 cars identically liveried from Rint Designs, and there is a change of order. Adam Spencer up the inside of Craig Horvath and is able to take the place away. So Adam Spencer is one of those nightmare of a cars. It looks blue on one side but it's green on the other. Eric Bridges under pressure. Eric Bridges trying to keep right behind him. No longer Tony Jones, because he is through. That's one place lost for Eric Bridges. He's trying to keep Adam Warner behind him so he doesn't lose a second place on this lap as we get towards, not quite, in a minute's time, we'll be at the halfway point of this race. So that will now mean that Jones moves up a place, up into 9th. Eric Bridges drops down into 10th. And still looking to pounce should the opportunity present itself is Adam Warner in the silver car that's at the tail end of this little trio, just picking their way for what will be the 7th time of asking round through Redgate Corner. So they're going to propel themselves onto the top of Craner Curves, start to plunge down through Hollywood. All the time our race leader is still Ethan Hall, but the lead advantage has been coming down. It was 9.4 seconds. That's close down at the old hairpin, and it's through. Adam Warner goes through and ahead of Eric Bridges, so that's a second place lost for Eric Bridges on consecutive laps. Lost a place on the previous lap as through went Tony Jones. Now loses a second place to Adam Warner. Yeah, lead advantage has been coming down. Last time through, Ethan Hall did a 1 minute 47.7. It was a 1 minute 47.3 for Luca Maserati. And at the start of this lap, the first sector of this lap, Luca Maserati was the quickest of anybody in the whole race through the first sector. So the lead advantage might dwindle down a little bit further this time through. So through goes Ethan Hall. It's pretty much 3/4 of a length of the Wheatcroft Straight. The lead advantage, that's still a big ask in the next 12 minutes or so. And the lead advantage that time came back out because it was a purple final sector from Ethan Hall. So the lead advantage goes back up to 9 3/4 seconds now, I'm afraid. Dust in the background. Brendan Hafner still busy fighting away with Tony Levy as they try and work out who wants to finish where. I think we might have had Tony Levy probably losing a place at the start of that lap, gaining it back by the end. So the leading 3 through the old hairpin. 4th place Perry Darling now very much on his own. He was embroiled in some good squabbles early on, but he's got a fairly clear bit of tarmac behind him. He's got a chunk of work to do to try and work himself onto the podium because he's 3.3 seconds behind the black and red number 6 car. And off and into the gravel, I'm afraid. That's Brooklyn Howell in his first race in the Porsche Club. He's gone off down through the Craner Curves and has deposited the car harmlessly without damage, but down in the Craner Curves. That'll be covered by localised yellow flags at this stage. The racing still continues out on track though. Craig Horvath fighting away with Ava Nolan, who is to driver's right, so Craig will have the inside line for the Goddard's hairpin and will still just about be hanging on to what will be 15th position at this stage. It'll be 14th place next time they come through because of the stricken car in the gravel trap. Up towards the braking area for Redgate Corner. Can Ava this time go through? Yes, she can. So another place gained there. Elsewhere up the order, we've still got Adam Warner busy fighting away, still trying to keep Tony Jones back at bay, having snuck through a few laps ago, looking to see if he can hang on to the position, but Tony's got other ideas about that. Those localised yellow flags still down at the old hairpin as the marshals are out on circuit, just double checking that everything is okay with Brooklyn Howell. So youngest driver in the field, 16 years of age. I don't think he's really even done any karting before, Brooklyn Howell, so he's very much an absolute novice and certainly has had some pace in qualifying. He was 7th quickest out of the 19 cars, but sadly retirement for him in his first race. So 10 minutes to go, up towards the braking area for Goddard's corner, onto the brakes. And are we going to see a move? Yeah, very late on the brakes. Diving up the inside goes Tony Jones, up the inside of Adam Warner, who sees him coming. Eric Bridges is there as well. And then when you look behind Eric Bridges, we've got the car with no rear bumper anymore, which is David Watt continuing to make progress. So a good little squabble this is. Eric Bridges hovering around, deciding which way he wants to go. In the end, he takes the normal racing line in towards Redgate Corner. And again, probably conscious of the fact that if he tried something and it didn't work, he's got the bumperless David Watt sitting right behind him. Down through the Craner Curves yet again into the yellow flag zone, so there's no overtaking opportunity down at the old hairpin at the moment, probably because the telehandler is now on circuit. Yeah, it's not in its snatch gap, which means it must be dealing with the car of Brooklyn Howell, just out of shot. And as they accelerate their way out of the corner, that is the opportunity that David Watt has been waiting for. Makes a good exit coming out of the old hairpin. And can he squeeze through and ahead of Eric Bridges? Not quite in the background of the shot. No, Eric Bridges in the purple car with the light green flashes is still there. So despite the fact that that car looks slightly second hand at the back end, David Watt is going well in this one. Brooklyn Hound's Boxster is going to be dragged, one would imagine, further into the gravel trap, so it's ever more out of harm's way. So yellow flags on the approach towards Redgate Corner, yellow flags down through the Craner Curve, so it's a chunk of the circuit that's not available for overtaking at this stage, and that's going to compromise our race leader because Ethan Hall is now catching the traffic. Carves his way past Stephen Cartwright's car. He's then about to dive his way past the next of the back markers, which is going to be Craig Horvath's car. So the lead advantage that had grown to 11.4 seconds might just dwindle down a bit this time because of the traffic. But of course, Luca Maserati at some point has got to deal with that very same traffic as well. And it depends where he meets it. If there's yellow flags, you have to do exactly what Ethan Hall did and not overtake. Just sit behind, wait until you get back past the yellow flags to where the green flag is waved, and then you're able to overtake once more. So 7 3/4 minutes to go. Back over the start-finish line comes this great little battle. Adam Warner sitting there in 8th place this time through. Luca Maserati very much on his own in 2nd place, 11.4 seconds adrift of the race leader, but he's now 7.1/4 seconds up the road from Kuba Wozniak. So the number 46 car, which is the usual number that the Maserati family race under, whether it be Piers Maserati, Miles Maserati, Maserati Senior as well, all racing drivers. In fact, the British GT champion was Luca Maserati's father, Piers Maserati, some years ago, BRDC member therefore. Luca, if he can have a career half as good as Piers, who went on to race at Le Mans, so he's from good stock is Luca Maserati, and he's 17 years of age and certainly has got some great pace. So he's now starting to catch the traffic, which is busy squabbling as well. Adam Spencer fighting away with Ava Nolan, that will be. So those two cars busy beavering away. Luca Maserati about to catch the first little bit of traffic, which is going to be Stephen Cartwright's rig design machine, the white and the black and the orange car. Very familiar team colours of rig design, who've got, I think, 3 cars out pretty much identically liveried. Nip up the inside of one of those, down through the Crater Curves. Hopefully those yellow flags have now been withdrawn. Next car to deal with will be Craig Horvath. And that is picked off rather effortlessly by Luca Maserati, who, by the way, has now picked up a 5-second penalty for track limit. So he's 10.5 seconds off the lead. He's got 6.7 seconds in hand between himself and Kuba Wozniak. So even with a 5-second penalty, he would hang on to 2nd place on corrected times. But should he transgress the circuit limits one more time, that 5-second penalty would become a 10-second penalty. And then finishing 2nd in the race might have a very large question mark over it. Side by side further down through the order, Tony Jones and Eric Bridges still busy fighting away over 9th and 10th position. So Tony Jones will hang on to it. Eric Bridges will nip across the nose of the number 17 car of David Watt to prevent him from gaining a place. And now they're slowly getting reeled in by the next car behind, which is going to be Louis Pont. Perry Darling now dealing with the traffic as well, so that's the 4th place car going through and past Craig Horvath. So Perry Darling now is the next of those to catch the traffic and have to try and weave his way through. Perry, who was 4th in the championship last year, running 4th in the race today as well. Eric Bridges was 4th in the championship a few years ago, but I think that was 2023 in the purple and green car, I should say. And there, I'm afraid, is a spin and there's some contact, I'm afraid. Ava Nolan goes off and into the gravel trap. And is she going to be able to recover? No. So she comes to a halt in the gravel trap with some damage to the front end of her car and is going no further. And Adam Spencer, who she made contact with, is still sitting in the wrong direction at the exit of Redgate Corner at the moment. It looks like the engine is fired and he will get going. And that's going to drop him well and truly down through the order. He gets going, but has lost a chunk of time of that. And thankfully, I think, despite the fact there was a little bit of car-to-car contact there, he might have got away with it, but he is leaving the scene rather slowly, which sort of begs the question as to whether he feels as though everything is okay with that car. Still 4 minutes to go. No overtaking now on the run in towards Redgate Corner because of the stricken car of Ava Nolan. That remains a long way into the gravel trap up there at Redgate Corner. And at Goddard's Corner, there's an attack to gain a place from David Watt here over Eric Bridges. So the two of them are going to run side by side into the yellow flag zone. Now, whoever has got their nose ahead should hang on to it, because they shouldn't be overtaking as they approach the yellow flag zone, as the marshals are out on circuit, and it looks as though David Watt has decided he just had his nose ahead, and therefore he is confident that he can complete that overtake, because he was already ahead when they reached the yellow flag zone. So he is through and ahead of Eric Bridges, and as they go down through the Craner curves, looks as though that car of David Watt, yes, was confirmed by the look of things of up in, I think that'll be 10th place for him at the end of that lap. And there's another off, I'm afraid, and that is going to be Louis Pont who is off. So down where we saw Brooklyn Howell in the gravel not long ago, Louis Pont is off as well. So just as the telehandler deals with one stricken car, another one has gone off. 3 minutes to go, so no overtaking at Redgate Corner at the moment, no overtaking at the old hairpin. Still other opportunities to try and wiggle your way through somewhere on track, and one of the drivers that trying to find somewhere to overtake is David Watt, who is drawing himself alongside Tony Jones as they head in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's. Is David Watt going to go through? Tony Jones has the inside line. They go, oh, absolutely together through the first part of the Fogarty S's, but David Watt sneaks through at the wheel of the GSF backed car and is going to gain the place. Now, he started off the very back of the grid because he had problems in qualifying and didn't complete a single lap. He's had problems in the race because he shed his bumper, but he's up to 11th at the moment, so it's not been a bad race from him. Into the pits, I'm afraid we have lost one, and that is going to be the car of Adam Spencer that has come into the pits. So it looks black from that angle, but it's green from the other, which is rather confusing. We've also got a few more time penalties coming up as well, because we mentioned Luca Maserati had picked one up. Well, now in third place, Perry Darling has picked up a 5-second penalty. He's moved up to third on the road, and Kuba Wozniak has dropped to fourth, but he's picked up a 5-second penalty, so on corrected times that would sort itself out, and Wozniak would go back to third. We've also got Tony Levy now in 7th place, has picked up a 5-second penalty. Car number 13, Stephen Cartwright, has also picked up a 5-second penalty. So there's a few out there that are just going beyond the white lines painted around the circuit. Yellow flag still down at the old hairpin whilst we deal with that second stricken car, which is the one of Louis Pont. And the lead advantage now between Ethan Hall and Luca Maserati is now stretched to nearly 20 seconds. So it is a very, very dominant race lead at this stage from Ethan Hall. He qualified over half a second quicker, nearly 0.6 of a second quicker than Luca Maserati, but has really shown him a clean pair of heels in the race. He was over 3 seconds ahead at the end of the first lap, so really got on with it immediately. Checkered flag has come out early by the look of things, so there was time on the clock, but I think with cars around the circuit, the officials have decided to bring the checkered flag out early, so probably a lap earlier than we were expecting. So checkered flag out. Ethan Hall is just making his way out of Coppice at the moment, actually, and is about to work his way down in towards the Melbourne hairpin, but checkered flag is out, which means that we have got a result a little earlier than we were expecting. Ethan Hall will be still more than happy with that. Still cars, though, to take the checkered flag as they come up in towards the braking area. That is big, big pressure for Adam Warner, who has got David Wright looking to see if he can gain a further place. This will be for 8th and 9th position, and David Watt was sideways coming out of the corner, and on the charge to the line there is absolutely nothing between them, but I think it was just in 8th place David Watt that came through, and it will be Adam Warner that will drop down into 9th position, though despite the wiggle by 66 thousandths of a second, 0.066 of a second, David Watt does gain the place and gets himself inside the top 8, and that is a good result from him considering that he started dead last on the grid, 19th position after 0 laps in qualifying. Actually had to do his 3 laps outside of any of the qualifying sessions and did them in the lunch break as well. The requisite 3 laps you have to do to be able to qualify off the back of the grid even to start. So Ethan Hall claims a dominant win. He'll be absolutely delighted with that one. Fantastic livery on that car as well, with the dark blue and the purple, dark blue and the pink and the blue to it. He'll be delighted. He also scoops up the fastest lap of the race, which will give him an extra championship point as well. So he'll pick up the 25 points for the win, plus the point for pole position, plus the point for fastest lap. he came under starters orders, he'll get a point. If he put his entry in on time, he'll get a point. And depending on how many starters in your class, he might have picked up another 10 points from there. So let's confirm some results for you then for the opening round of the Boxster Cup Championship. Ethan Hall claims the win, and a dominant one at that, from Luca Maserati in second place. And Cuba Wozniak on corrected times finishes in third. Perry Darling ends up fourth by the time you add his time penalty, and fifth place goes the way of Stuart Warner, with Brendan Hafner completing the top six. Tony Levy was in seventh place. Eighth place was David Watt off the back of the grid. Ninth place was the car of Tony Jones, and Eric Bridges completes the top 10 as we head outside of the top 10. 11th place, the last car to finish on the lead lap, was Adam Warner. Craig Horvath was a lap down, as was Stephen Cartwright, and as was Adam Spencer. And then from there on inwards, the rest of the cars, I'm afraid, were cars that had problems and retired. Louis Pont, Ava Nolan, Brooklyn Howell, and very early on we lost David Hussey, I'm afraid, as well, from our opening round of 2026 for the Porsche Club Championship Boxster Cup. So that's it from Donington Park for the moment. We have more Porsche racing coming up for you later on today. Porsche Club Championship second race will be up at around about 10 to 5 this afternoon if we run to timetable. It might be slightly delayed from that. The second race for Boxster Cup around about 6 o'clock, something like that. So from everybody here at Donington Park, from Porsche Club Motorsport and from Onside Productions, thanks a lot. We'll catch you later. Goodbye. So there's some season highlights from the GT Cup Champ. So there we go. There's some season highlights from the GT Cup Championship of 2025. So that's all done and dusted, 2025. We're about to start the next incarnation, which will be the 2026 GT Cup Championship season here at Donington Park